The opening of Wilder's next book in the series, By the Shores of Silver Lake, published in 1939, struck a very different tone than its predecessors. The tone is somber and, by extension, more mature. Laura was washing the dishes one morning when old Jack, lying in the sunshine on the doorstep, growled to tell her that someone was coming. She looked out and saw a buggy crossing the gravelly ford of Plum Creek. "Ma," she said, "it's a strange woman coming." Ma sighed. She was ashamed of the untidy house, and so was Laura. But Ma was too weak, and Laura was too tired, and they were too sad to care very much. Even before readers get to page 3 in the Garth Williams edition of this book, they know that Laura is older. She's washing dishes after all, and Jack is old. And the fact that the house is untidy, that Ma is weak, that Laura is tired, that too signals a major change in what readers have come to expect from the fictional Ingalls family. This is clearly a book for older readers. Wilder reinforces this shift in the book's second chapter entitled Grown Up, when Laura has to say a final goodbye to her beloved Jack. In the morning, when Laura came down the ladder into the lamplight, Pa was going out to do the chores. He spoke to Jack, but Jack did not stir. Only Jack's body, stiff and cold, lay curled there on the blanket. They buried it on the low slope above the wheat field, by the path he used to run down so gaily when he was going with Laura to bring in the cows. Pa spaded the earth over the box and made the mound smooth. Grass would grow there after they had all gone away to the west. Jack would never again sniff the morning air and go springing over the short grass with his ears up and his mouth laughing. He would never nudge his nose under Laura's hand again to say he wanted her to pat him. That morning, Pa drove away in the rattling old wagon behind Aunt Dosha's buggy. Jack was not standing beside Laura to watch Pa go. There was only emptiness to turn to instead of Jack's eyes looking up to say that he was there to take care of her. Laura is alone when this novel opens. She's grown up without anyone to protect her, and this new maturity signals a new theme in the Little House series. The story of this book, and those that will follow, will explore how Laura comes of age, how she will transition from childhood to adulthood. In short, By the Shores of Silver Lake is undoubtedly a young adult novel. The final lines in Chapter 2, Growing Up, make this perfectly clear to readers. Laura knew that she was not a little girl anymore. Now she was alone. She must take care of herself. When you must do that, then you do it, and you are a grown-up. Laura was not very big, but she was almost 13 years old, and no one was there to depend on. Pa and Jack had gone, and Ma needed help to take care of Mary and the little girls, and somehow to get them all safely to the west on a train. But as I briefly discussed in an earlier lecture, Wilder and Lane initially disagreed about this transition. Lane apparently believed her mother's approach to the fifth book in her series, its themes and even its main character, were too mature for young readers. Although Lane's letter on the subject no longer survives, it's clear that she even suggested that Wilder change main characters in the series from Laura to Carrie. As we've seen, Wilder strongly disagreed. We can't change heroines in the middle of the stream and use Carrie in the place of Laura. This letter dates from 1938. But for Lane, this issue wasn't simply about the age of the main character in this novel. It was about the character's growing awareness of her own maturity, of approaching adulthood and its new responsibilities. But once again, Wilder fought to keep all of that. I don't see how we can spare what you call adult stuff, for that makes the story. It was there and Laura knew and understood it. To be fair to Lane, in 1938, when she and her mother were struggling with these issues, there wasn't a clear path for writers who wanted to present adolescent main characters with meatier, more substantial coming-of-age issues to young readers. There wasn't an established market for this. Again, as I discussed briefly in an earlier lecture, the American Library Association didn't formally recognize the young adult category until 1958. And then it didn't establish an award for young adult literature, the Michael Prince Award, until the year 2000. In other words, in 1938, the young adult category hadn't been invented yet. Wilder was blazing a new trail. But times were beginning to change in the 1930s. Again, as we've discussed, this decade gave readers Nancy Drew. And although these books didn't deal with significant coming-of-age themes, the Nancy Drew books did give readers a fearless 16-year-old female main character who was mature enough to drive, interact with her community, and live independently. Nancy needed no one, not even her sometimes boyfriend Ned, to protect her. And in 1938, when On the Banks of Plum Creek was named a Newbery Honor Book, so was this one, Bright Island by Mabel Robinson. It was the story of a senior in high school trying to balance her desires against family expectations. Set in Maine, it was a contemporary novel back in 1937 when it was initially published. And like By the Shores of Silver Lake, it was a coming-of-age novel. So too, of course, were the very first young adult novels in American literature, Little Women and The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. The March girls struggle between childhood and adulthood, searching for their places and purposes in the world. Huck, of course, does much the same, although he ultimately rejects his society and its civilization that enforces the brutal and inhumane institution of slavery. But I reckon I got a light out for the territory ahead of the rest, because Aunt Sally, she's going to adopt me and civilize me, and I can't stand it. I've been there before. But as we've discussed, there wasn't an established market for the first young adult novels in American literature when they were published in the late 19th century. However, there was an established tradition in coming-of-age books for adult readers, with such books as Charles Dickens' novel David Copperfield, published in 1850, and Samuel Butler's The Way of All Flesh, published in 1903. Extending well into the 20th century with the publication of James Joyce's The Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man in 1916, and Thomas Wolfe's Look Homeward Angel in 1929. J.D. Salinger's Catcher in the Rye, published in 1951, is part of this literary tradition.